Good morning, students. I Vidyasagar welcome you all in the e-learning class of Modern International School Hiswa. I am going to start subject history of standard 8, and this is chapter 3rd and video lecture 4 from this topic, ruling the countryside. Now we are going to discuss about the crops for Europe. Dear students, as we have discussed about the three types of systems which have been introduced for the land revenue system, like the permanent system, Mahalwadi system and Rayatwadi system, then still from all those, if they were not totally succeeded to collect their desirous taxes, then the new ideas which was come to their mind, that they also think that we are not here for only the collecting the taxes. Wherever we could only suppress them, we could only force them to grow the demanded product, which was the indigo and the opium. Indigo, it means Neil, and opium, it means Afim. So these were the two products which were the highly demanded, and it was the India which having the favorable climatic condition where it was grown well, as the part of Assam which was famous for tea, sugar cane in United Province, and wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra, and rice in Madras. As these also were cultivating, but still these things were highly demanded in Europe, as the indigo was used for the dyeing of the cloths, because each give a rich color of blue dyes, and the traders, they were also demanding it at a high price. As well as the opium, it was used for self consumption, as you can say as the British, they used variety of methods to expand the cultivation of crops as they needed, like in the above given pictures, you will see two types of different pictures was given. One was by the Indians, which was drawn during the 12th century, which was known as the Kalamkari print, and the same picture which was drawn by the English painter William Morris Hodge, who painted it during the late 19th century in England. It means there, if you will want to know that whether it have a history, then yes, it have a history, and it was adapted from there, where the two prints are given here. The main motto is to give it there that both of there it was used the indigo, as the indigo was very good in quality and gives a rich color, and that's why they were demanding for the indigo, and it gives the blue color, deep blue color, and people's, the British, they were suppressing here for doing the indigo cultivation to the peasants. Why was, next topic is, why was the demand for Indian indigo? As the indigo, the Indian subcontinent, wherever some part, the eastern part, which was the favorable soil and favorable climatic condition from where the indigo could be grown. So the European market, they were highly demanded the Indian indigo, because at that time, during the 13th century, Indian indigo was used by the manufacturers in Italy, France and Britain to dye the cloths. However, the Indian indigo reached the European markets at it very high price, because the in the European market its availability was very low, and thus they have to depend on the other plant. It was known as oud, but there was the far differences between the oud and indigo, because the traders, they were also demanding for the indigo, because indigo used to give a deep rich color, wherever the oud, it just gives a pale colors, and it was also dull. As being oud used to grown in the temperate zones, so oud was available easily in the Europe, and it was grown in the north Italy, southern France, and part of Germany and Britain. As we know that the indigo wood produced in Europe, because the competition was there, as they were demanding for the Indian indigo, and there were the availability was of oud. That's why they were just demanding that please ban the Indian indigo, because it is just affecting our old marketing in Europe. And thus the cloth dyers and the indigo producers and the traders, they were also banned it. But when by the 17th century, European cloth producers, they have persuaded the government to relax the ban on indigo import. Thus again the indigo was started importing there, as the French also cultivating the indigo at the one of the colonies at Saint Dominique, which was in Caribbean island. The Portuguese, they were doing it in Brazil, and the English, it was in Jamaica. These were the colonial of these countries, and in these countries they were suppressing them to do the production of indigo. As indigo plantation also came up in many parts of the North America, and by the 18th century demand for indigo grew further, as because the cloth producer, they were just fond of the Indian indigo, because it gives a better color to them. As the Britain, during the late 18th century, the you can say the beginning of 19th century, the industrialization began in the Britain, and enormous new demand for cloth dye was there, and just the indigo increased its existing supplies from West Indies, and America collapsed variety of region. And that's why from between 1783 and 1789 the production of indigo in the world fell by half. Cloth dyers in Britain now desperately look for new sources of indigo supply. It means it's telling us that from the western countries like the North America, Jamaica, and Saint Dominique, which were the colonials, at these countries the indigo production goes downward, and as these the British, the industrialization was happening there. That's why due to industrialization more cloths was producing, and thus the demand for the indigo was increasing more, and thus they were just finding a new source that from where they could get the indigo. Now Britain turned to India as the Indian subcontinent. As in the first chapter you have already studied that they were doing the survey, different type of survey for agriculture, for the crops, different things, for the tea. So by the British survey they have found out that the Indian soil that is better for the cultivation of indigo, and thus in Bengal the indigo production was gone up, and by 1788 the 30% of indigo that was imported from India. And 1800, by 1810, within 32 years later, the 95%, it reached up to 95% indigo, and which was of best quality indigo, which was importing to Britain. As the trade grew, the commercial agents and the company officials, they have left their positions, and they all were investing their sum to the indigo plantation. As the indigo business has attracted them, they also taken the high profits in it. And the various Englishmen, they also came here to become the planters. And those who don't have money to produce indigo, they get loans from the company and bank and coming up at that time. It means, see that if the indigo was making the profits, then all the peoples, whether they were the officials of the company or any other people, they all moved toward the high profits which was given by the indigo production. But how was indigo cultivated? Next is, it was of two types. First was of neat cultivation, another was raiti. Niche cultivation, it means the planters produced indigo in land that he directly controlled. Wherever the raiti, it means it was done by the riots, the peasants directly, and the profits, it was taken by those money lenders who have given them the money. So two types of cultivation was also done in the indigo plantation. Okay, dear students, read the paragraph and keep watching. Thank you.